Hey guys, this is Rick coming at you with Weed to No Basis, the podcast for all things cannabis business related. Are you an entrepreneur? Have something you wanted to create, something you wanted to bring to life in the cannabis industry? Maybe you've always wanted to partake in one of the biggest industries in modern day history. This is the podcast to listen to. We're back. You're in my living room. Hemp Q. This is my crib. So hey guys, but seriously, welcome back. This is another episode of Weed to No Basis, and we're going to talk about the third core value here in just a second. That's freedom. But before we go on, remember, you're listening to this, you're watching this, wherever you're at, whether you're in Belgium, South America, Topeka, Kansas, or San Antonio, or LA. I love LA. It's because you two are on a Weed to Know basis. So this series, guys, is focused on a fundamental aspect of not just business, but us as human beings. We've already talked about some other core values that we live and we breathe by. That's faith and family. Today we're going to talk about freedom. So stay tuned because it's not quite what you think. It is what you think and more. And if you've listened to other episodes, you know that we have a very unique way of shedding light on subjects that we thought were so simple and actually are, but in a new way. I'm going to give you a new lens to really consider things that we took traditionally as tradition. Hope that made sense. So we've already talked about the first core value. Guys, and if you go to our website, which is Green Seed Alliance, it's clearly stated on there. Now, you don't have to put these on your website. You don't have to put these on a plaque. You don't have to. We do intentionally because, like I shared with you, is our business is really us. So we used to have a company where we had 600 employees across 19 states. We had a home office of about 40 internal staff. So core values for your business can be a little bit different from core values for you personally. Make sense? Sometimes they mesh really, really tight. Sometimes they're similar, but they shouldn't be too far apart. But because our business is this show, Weed to No Basis, and we consult with cannabis companies, our business, mine and my wife, it's us. Our business and personals, is that even a word? I just made up a new word. Our business is intricately tied into us. So our core values are a reflection of who we are as people and how we operate our companies. Faith, family, freedom, fitness. Those are the four core values that we preach and we live by. And I say preach in a very loose way, guys. I'm not a proselytizer, so don't get your shorts in a wad. Continue listening. Don't get all, oh, he's one of those God boys and click off. No, it's about core values. It's about what's important to you guys. And honestly, what I just shared with you is exactly why core values exist. You see, because some folks just heard what I said and they clicked away. See, core values attract people and they repel people. That's what they're supposed to do. Guys, we don't want everybody in our lives. We just don't. That's really why these exist. So I'm going to compel you guys to think about what shapes you, what drives you, what molds you. Who do you want in your life? Who do you not want in your life? They could be phrases like #1 customer service, or always do the right thing, or whatever. We never quit till we finish the job. Those are core values. Core values can also be a single word, like faith, like family, like freedom, like fitness, like fun, like fidgeting, whatever. They just have to matter and be deep set for you. In fact, the core values, when you think about them, guys, they should stir something in here. And in here. That's the truth. Take time to figure out your core values. These aren't fast. These are often with companies reasons to hire people and fire people. A violation of core values is something that is something very moral and something where somebody can lose a job over. That is the importance of core values. But I want to talk about the third core value, which is freedom. And for me, freedom, it means a lot of things. And you may resonate with some of this and you may not, but you may figure out a way that it resonates differently. But freedom means some things. I'm just going to dive right in. So I served twice in the United States military. I was enlisted back in the 80s. So I promptly flunked out of college because I was a straight D student. I got an A+ in beer and playing pool. I spent the majority of my time playing pool in the student union and drinking. I got really good at drinking a pitcher of beer on my own. So straight D student, flunked out of school, and back in about 1989, 1990, so I know I'm 52 years old. I know what you're thinking. Rick, you're not a day over 39. But I graduated from high school in 85. I took a stab at college and promptly flunked out. And I didn't know what else to do. My parents had paid for college, and they said, Ricky, you had your chance, go figure it out. And I had to figure it out. So I went to visit my uncle, and Uncle Sam. And Uncle Sam, he has a residence on many, many street corners across the country. So, and his cousins, Air Force, Army, Marines, Navy, they're all there. So I went to visit my uncle and all his cousins. And my cousin, who's a United States Army, took me under his wing. So I joined my uncle for some business opportunities called the United States Army back in 1989. And I learned a lot about myself as a human. I learned that I was significantly lacking in discipline. I learned also that I didn't want to spend a career in the military. I didn't. I wouldn't trade those years back for anything. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about camaraderie. I learned a lot about family. I learned a lot about fitness. I learned a lot about faith. That's the truth. The Marine Corps says God, family, Corps. Or is it God, Corps, family? The point is, guys, I learned my core values, unknowing to me, began to actually form when I was a teenager. Think about that. Think about that statement. You see, I learned a lot about camaraderie. I learned a lot what the literal phrase meant. When somebody says, I would get in a foxhole with you, I literally learned what that meant. Like literally. And I also learned the type of person I don't want in my foxhole with me. Core values. But that was really the big lesson for me, was freedom. You see, because something happens when you wear the United States flag on your shoulder. Something happens. And you don't have to have experienced it, guys. You just, maybe you or a Boy Scout, and I'm saying this with all truth, guys. My experience took me into the military, and something changed when you put on a uniform, when you strap on some boots, and back then they were polished, so we used to spit polish our boots. Something happens, guys, when you know that you've just written a check payable to the United States government that could be cashed with your life. So the word freedom has a very deep meaning. And my dad was a Vietnam vet, a grunt, Vietnam grunt, grandfather, World War II. So the word freedom has a very unique meaning, and it may have the same meaning for you too, guys. Freedom could be something very distinct to you. Maybe you've escaped a traumatic, childhood. Maybe you've emerged from, maybe you're an immigrant and you've come to our country and you've escaped, a poor situation. Freedom can have a lot of meanings. For me, guys, freedom emerged when I realized that serving my country was a very unique responsibility. And then, of course, you learn to fire a weapon, and you realize that at a single drop of a hat, you could be on a ship or a plane and be deployed overseas to really defend freedom. So freedom became something very visceral for me. But let me tell you then how that core value was pounded even more into me. Because I did my tour, got out, went to nursing school, and graduated in 1995. So I've been a nurse as of now for 25 years, something like that. It's been a while. Haven't practiced in a bit. Still pretty sharp. I still know how to nurse. So, but here's what happened, is 9/11. 9/11 happened. And you all know what the hell that was. 9/11 happened, and I had a skill that I wanted to put to good use, so I went back into the service. I went back in, and my wife, she doesn't smile too much when I tell this story, because she's like, Rick, we were in the middle of building a multi-million-dollar business, and your uncle brought you back into service. Yes, my Uncle Sam knocked on the door, and I answered. And so I went back in this time as a military officer. And I was reintroduced to the importance of freedom, again, in a very visceral way. Only this time I was activated. Was activated to an 18-month tour, this time as an Army nurse, and I learned the importance of freedom, but not because of the flag on my shoulder. Here's why. Yes, it was that, and I'm a patriot. I'm a proud American, guys. I don't care if you're blue or red, elephant or donkey, guys, we live in the greatest motherfucking country in the world has ever seen. Ever. Proud American. I don't care if you're Mexican, if you're Chinese, it doesn't matter where you stand on the political landscape, guys. I will fucking bleed for this flag. But that wasn't really the message that was pounded home for me back in 2005 and 6. You see, because I remember my very first patient as an Army nurse. At full uniform, Lieutenant Martinez. I walked into this patient's room, and this was in the heyday of Iraq and Afghanistan. This was when there was a lot of casualties. And I walked in, and I'd seen it all. I had seen it all, guys. As a trauma nurse, I've seen the worst of humanity, and I've seen the best. I've been a part of humanity entering this world, childbirth in an emergency setting, and I've seen people leave this world, sometimes in very traumatic ways. And I've run the gamut of human emotion. I've seen it all. And it's the life I chose. But I walked into my first patient's room. I was at Walter Reed in Washington, D.C. And this was the old Walter Reed. If y'all don't know, it doesn't matter. The new Walter Reed is a hip-hop, shiny new hospital in Bethesda, but I was at the old Walter Reed. I walked into my first, clear as day for me. And I walked in, and I wasn't in Iraq or Afghanistan. I wasn't in the sandbox. I was in our nation's capital. I was staff. I was an officer on one of the most, what I came to learn was one of the most prolific floors in the entire United States military. And I'll tell you about that in a second. But I walked into my patient's room, and I opened the door to introduce myself as his nurse, Lieutenant Martinez, and a young private, E2, E-nothing, probably 20 years old, 19, 20, 21, and he tried to get up out of bed. He was a patient in his bed, and his mom was sitting on the other side of the bed, so I could see his mom in the chair, and he tried to get up because he saw I was an officer, and I'm like, oh, hey, don't worry about it. And as he tried to get up, I could tell it was strained. He shouldn't have tried to, and he looked at me, and he was missing an ear, and he was missing an eye, and part of his leg was gone. And at that moment, I realized the definition of freedom. At that moment, I realized this is something that will shape my life forever. So guys, whatever your core value is, it's got to make you feel like this. I watched this young man try and stand up because I'm an officer, and I almost fell to my knees. As I'm telling you this, I'm getting chills. Because those experiences shaped me. Those experiences hammered home, drove not just the nail, but the railroad spike into the word freedom. I realized that there are people better than me, young men, young women, who were doing things in all parts of the world to protect this conversation, this business, weed to no basis. It's because of their dedication to freedom and sacrifice that we can do this. So freedom is very visceral to me. Freedom, guys, could mean that you became an entrepreneur because you want to travel the world. That's okay. Freedom could mean is you no longer want to answer to a boss. That's okay. Freedom could mean like you finally want to be able to send your kids to the best damn schools in the country, and that's okay too. That's okay. At its essence, freedom is choice. Freedom is choice. If that resonates with you guys, then steal it. Put freedom as one of your fucking core values, but just do it. And make sure it feels like this. Make sure it feels like so when people come to you, they're like, that's why this guy talks about freedom. If freedom to you guys is you want to buy an RV and travel the country, then fucking do it. And share it and state it. That's okay. Guys, core values are the core of who you are. They will attract your tribe. They will repel the enemies. Stand by them. Draw your line in the sand. I told you before this episode started, you might be thinking, I already know what freedom is. How's that working for you now? 4 core values: faith, family, freedom, and fitness. In the next episode, we talk about fitness. And again, it's not what you think. It's not what you think. You need to tune in, guys. You need to go back over these. You need to take your notes, not if you're driving, pull over. You need to leave your comments. You need to share these. Because guys, this core values are what's going to shift the industry, shift your business. When you start something without core values, you start with no foundation. Figure out what your core values are. Stand by them. Make them feel something. Make them want to puff your chest out. Pick your head up. Look somebody in the eye and say, this is what I stand for. Join me or step aside. Faith, family, freedom, fitness. Today, guys, I shared with you in a very raw way, very true, and it still to this moment charges me up in a very emotional way why freedom has become one of my core values. I also want to compel you to join us. If these resonate, if the premise of building a business with a solid foundation really resonates, and it should, hit us up, greenseedalliance.com. Instagram at Planet Boy or Weeds and No Basis. We don't have a fancy company managing our profile. That's just us, me and producer Chris behind the camera. Join us, guys. Join the family. Find some freedom. Maybe a little fitness. Put your faith in something bigger than you. Tune into the next episode, the final core value of fitness, and then go back and listen to all 4 of these back to back to back. And sit in them for a minute. Think about them. Take your notes. Write your comments. Think about what's important to you. And if you need help sifting through this, guys, greenseedalliance.com. We're here for you. The cannabis startup entrepreneur, the wantrepreneur. You got a great idea. Don't let it die. I want to thank you guys. Really appreciate you joining me at home. My family photos behind us. I want to thank you for coming in here, for being such a gracious guest. If you're ever in San Antonio, hit me up, seriously. If we're around, grab a beer, grab some coffee. It's just what we're about. I might be wearing the same damn t-shirt. But thank you guys for tuning in. If you found some relevance in this, leave some comments, share it with folks. Put it out there, share it, grab the link, share it, put it out into the world. Together we all rise. Alone you go fast, together you go far. Thank you guys. Remember, if you're watching this show or listening on your iPad or your earbuds or your car as you're driving to Nirvana, don't forget, you're tuning in because you too are on a Weeds and No Basis. Have an awesome, free rest of the day. Peace.